Feel like the Flash, better yet I'm Barry Allen. Can't rewind time without messing.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Deep's Flashback. This is our very first episode. I am Robbie Billups, along with my co-host Jonathan Strickland. We'll be here every week discussing the new TV series from the Valley CW, The Flash, starring Grant Gustin. Okay. We've been waiting a very long time to see this show. I mean, it's almost been a year now.
We have.
I mean, we've been watching it since they introduced the character into Arrow, and we're big, giant fans of Arrows. Arrowheads, if you will, right?
We are Arrowheads.
Absolutely. So, really, really looking forward to The Flash. So, Jonathan, how did you feel? Like, how was the first episode overall?
Overall, the first episode was really good. I loved everything about it, really.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I liked it a lot. I thought it did a really good job of taking the origin, showing you a little bit of action, introducing the characters. Grant Gustin, really, really endearing performance as Barry Allen, I believe. I thought he really nailed it in Arrow last year, and I think the first episode of The Flash, it goes even further. I just think he's got a really good handle on the character, really likable. What do you think on that guy?
Right, see, I was a little indifferent. With him on Arrow, I liked him on it, but being next to Diggle and Ollie, it kind of made him seem really, really young. And they played off that in the Arrow show, and they even played off that in this episode. I believe the officer calls him Babyface when he comes back. So.
He does, and it's also very weird to see Green Arrow be the mentor in this situation. I think that's interesting. I really like Grant Gustin. I think he's great. I think we're going to go a little bit further. I think he's going to come along just fine. Candace Patton plays Iris West. I really like her. I think she's a good choice. What do you think about her?
First episode, so there's still a lot to see. I thought they made her a little ditzy for someone who was studying.
She's going to be a reporter, yet she doesn't know what a particle accelerator is.
Right, so.
She's still in college, I guess. Maybe just.
I like it.
Okay, I like her too. The two scientists, of course, we got Caitlin Snow,
right,
played by Danielle Panabaker, I believe, and of course. Fan favorite, Cisco Ramon, right? Who we know better in the comic book world as Vibe. And I'm just going to say Jeff Johns, one of the writers on the show, very adamant that he's going to make Vibe an important character in somebody's life. I thought they were good. What do you think about those characters? What about Snow in particular?
Snow was very just dreary. Like, Barry even plays off of that. He's like, hey, what's wrong with you? Why are you so sad all the time? And she's like, yeah, my fiance died.
Yeah.
So...
By the way, if you haven't seen The Flash yet, you should watch it before you watch the show.
Yeah, don't watch this if you haven't watched the show.
It's interesting. She mentions that her fiance died in the accident, and I think it's been revealed online that her fiance is actually going to be Ronnie Raymond, who we know becomes Firestorm. Interesting thing about the character of Caitlin Snow, in the comic books, she becomes the villain Killer Frost. It's going to be interesting to see if they go that way. What do you think about Cisco, the Vibe?
Cisco, he's funny. I think a lot of people will relate to that character because he's young, and a lot of teens probably watch the show, and so they'll enjoy him, I think.
A very young cast, with those three in particular, and then Iris, and I think that, for instance, they nail humor really well in this episode. It's funny. It's a funny show.
Right.
It's also, it's very inspirational. I like how Arrow even tells him, he's like, I want to be like a vigilante like you. He's like, no, you can be something more.
Right.
You can be a hero.
Yeah.
You can save people's lives. You can be an inspiration. Speaking of an inspiration, John Wesley Shipp, coming back to play Barry's dad. He, of course, played the Flash in the 90s TV series. Very short-lived.
Right.
It was cool to see him back. A little bit of a passing of the torch, of course. Always fun. I also want to point out Jesse L. Martin plays Iris's dad, Detective Joe West. He is really good in this show.
He is.
He's really good. He's a good, solid actor. Musical fans will know him as the original Tom Collins in Rent. So that's kind of interesting to me. We also have Tom Cavanaugh, played Harrison Wells. We'll get to him in a minute.
Right.
And Eddie Thawne, played by Rick Cosnett. So overall, I think the cast is pretty good.
Oh, yeah, strong cast.
So the episode in general, how do you think they handled the origin?
The origin, I think they handled it pretty well. Jeff Johns has a big hand in this, and I'm not at all upset the way they handled it. I mean, the first 10 minutes, they told this whole origin story, and they laid out a lot of groundwork from Arrow, so they had the ability to do that, and I didn't feel like any of it was forced, so that was pretty good. I liked it.
I liked it too. I thought that they tweaked it enough. They added in the particle accelerator. Of course, that gives them a device to have more characters be introduced. Obviously, the Weather Wizard, who is the villain in this, the guy who can control the weather, he gets his powers from the same storm.
Right.
We're going to see this throughout the whole first season. I'm sure people are going to be getting their powers from this same storm. They did it in Smallville. They do it in tons of shows like this.
Yeah.
So I like that they got to tie it all together. It's got to make sense. It's cool. Weather Wizard. He didn't get a
Weather
big
Wizard.
spotlight. What'd you think about how he was handled? In the comics, he's just a dude with a wand.
Yeah.
But this is a dude who actually got some serious power.
Right. I'm not gonna be too judgmental since the episode 1. I feel like they're gonna bring him back somehow. He did get shot though, so I don't know.
Yeah, he got shot pretty bad.
But I thought he was pretty one-dimensional for a villain.
His brother might still be out there.
Right. He robbed the banks, and then he had the God complex. So
It's very one-dimensional. You're right.
Episode 1.
It's episode 1, and they mostly had to focus on Barry's origin, on the origin of the Flash. And so with it being, if it was a big movie, they would have had more time. But this was a 45-minute TV show.
Yeah, but my fear is, I hope it doesn't become Monster of the Week like Smallville.
Oh, I definitely think it will have tendencies of being Monster of the Week like most shows at first, but I think the overall mythology will really carry it on into the future.
Captain Cold next week.
All right, well, The Flash is off to a great start. 4.8 million viewers on its first night, way bigger than the debut of Arrow. Of course, Arrow had to take a while to build up its momentum. Flash is kind of using a lot of the momentum from Arrow.
Right.
Arrow's very important to The Flash. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. What do you think about the scene with Arrow?
A lot of people were saying it was cheesy online, but I loved it. I loved it, all of it. Loved all the cheesiness when Barry's talking to Ollie, and Ollie's telling him how you can do way more. You said it earlier. You can do way more than I could ever do. Like, I was killing people. You can save your city in a way that I could never. And then he goes on to say, what did he say that line about?
Like
the Flash?
You can save people's lives in a flash.
Oh, I love that. It's so corny.
It is corny, but most of the inspirational parts of these kind of movies and shows are.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest about it. And I really liked it too. I thought it was a really good speech. I think Barry needed it. It's odd to see Ollie be the mentor to someone like that.
When he shot that arrow and jumped off the building, like, freaking...
I love that. My favorite part of that whole thing is when he does that and Barry's like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And then Ollie looks at the Flash speeding off. He's like, oh, that's cool. I thought that was really neat. So they're doing a crossover coming up this season, of course. They have to. I'm really pumped for that. I'm excited to know what the villains are going to be, what the story's going to be that throws them all back together. I'd like to see Detective Lance and Detective West team up together.
That'd be cool.
I think that'd be cool. Really looking forward to that. Love the tie-in to Arrow. Of course, Arrow comes back this week as well. All right, let's go ahead and get to this. There's lots of controversy at first about the costume, about the Flash's costume.
Yeah.
What did you think about it?
For the TV show, I think it's great. Personally, as a comic book fan, you know how comic book fans are, we're picky. I love the brighter color. It's darker, and I think that fits the TV. They face a lot of dark villains. It is a little brighter TV show than Arrow, but it still kind of has that dark tone to it.
Yeah, I like it. I like the darker tone. I think it looks really good when he's running, when he's in motion, which, by the way, that looks great. I was really worried that they weren't going to have a budget to make this look cool, and the Flash looks cool. The special effects are awesome. So I like the costume in motion. It's a little baggy looking when he's just standing there, but in the first episode, we don't get a lot of him just standing there. I also want to point out, at the very end, when you see the magazine, which, by the way, also mentions the Crisis, which is a big Easter egg. If you look very closely at the picture, he's wearing the costume of the Flash. He's wearing the one with the white emblem and the brighter colors. So it is coming. They have said, we're gonna tweak the costume as the season goes. So I think the costume will be fine. If you have a problem with it, I mean, what can we really do about it?
Well, at least we get a costume. Like, we waited 3 seasons for Ollie to get his mask.
Yeah, right.
So we get episode 1, we get the Flash costume.
Take your own advice. Wear a mask. Talking a little bit about the origin, especially you mentioned the first 10 minutes. That was excellent. Jeff Johns is a comic book writer for DC. Also their chief creative officer. He is a brilliant writer who handles DC superheroes like nobody else. He's really done a lot of good work on Green Lantern and Aquaman, Justice League, and of course, The Flash. He wrote this book, Flash Rebirth. This book right here is pretty much explains, I think, almost everything that's going to happen in the first season of The Flash. The whole mystery, who killed Barry's mother, what's responsible. So we don't want to give too many spoilers out. So if you're not familiar with the comics, you might want to come and read them. But in that opening, you see Flash-type
I was geeking
lightning
out.
and,
I was
and
geeking
stuff.
out,
You see
for
red
sure.
lightning, you see yellow lightning. Now, we comic book fans understand that the yellow lightning signals the arrival of the Reverse Flash. He's
Reverse
basically
Flash.
the evil Flash. His costume's the other opposite way, so he's yellow. You see the Reverse Flash in there, so it's not too much of a spoil, but that figure that you see in yellow, that's probably the Reverse Flash. Tell me about the Reverse Flash, what you think about the character, how they're already putting that into it. It's already laid out. What do you think? Where are they going?
Yeah, like you said, it's Jeff Johns. So Jeff Johns is what got me into comics. Everything on Flash and Green Lantern, I loved it. So the fact that he's touching on Reverse Flash this early it's going to be epic. It's going to be great. As far as Flash villain, like a gallery of villains, Reverse Flash is up there. So
Yeah, he's
it's going to be good.
He's definitely one of the best. He's maybe not the most famous. I'd probably go to Captain Cold, but he's definitely,
right.
I think, the most threatening.
Yes.
And the most serious and the
Yes.
most deadly out of
sure.
all of those villains. He really has it in for Barry.
Oh, yeah.
And we will find out, hopefully, in the show why later on. Now, I want to take a moment. Let's talk about Harrison Wells. That's the character who was in the wheelchair, the main scientist in Star Labs. You find out that there's more beneath the eye there at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
What do you think is going on with Harrison Wells? You think he's going to be a mentor like he's set up, or you think he's got more sinister motives?
Right, yeah. We've been talking. We have our theories. We don't want to spoil too much, but there's definitely more than meets the eye, for sure.
Absolutely.
Because he's in a wheelchair and he stands up at the end. And
Yeah, well, he's lying about being paralyzed.
Yeah,
He's got a newspaper from 10 years in the future.
yeah. So,
And there's something going on there, and I swear if you watch the episode again at the very end, when you see his face and it cuts in a flash of yellow lightning. So maybe they're trying to set up that he possibly could be the Reverse Flash and not who we might think it is, because fans of the Flash comic book might say that guy right there is Reverse Flash, but it might be Wells. And fans should reference the character of Hunter Zolomon from the Jeff Johns Wally West run.
right.
Um,
He also might be bipolar
yeah, he might just.
because he told Barry he was not going to be a hero, and then 20 minutes later, he's like, "Run, Barry, run!"
Well, it was motivational. I
Yeah,
liked it.
it got me jacked. I was jacked.
So we're comic book fans, obviously. We work at the Deep Comics. You can come and talk to us at the shop, and we'll sell you Flash comics. We'll point you in the right direction. Let's talk a little bit about some of the Easter eggs. What's something that
Dude.
popped up in your head? Easter eggs that are for the comic book fans.
Oh, man. I was geeking out when Barry runs on the airport track and they flash the Ferris aircraft sign.
There's air, absolutely.
Ferris air.
Yeah.
And if that means anything to anyone in comic books, then you know that references to Carol Ferris, which references to Hal Jordan, which references to Green Lantern. So they're acknowledging possibly that's in the same universe. So possibly we'll see a Green Lantern.
That would be neat.
Oh man.
I hope it would be Hal, because it's Barry. I hope it would be Hal.
Right.
The thing that really got me going was seeing the cage that the gorilla broke out of that had the Grodd name tag on it. Gorilla Grodd
Yeah, they emphasize
is my
that.
favorite Flash villain, probably. Gorilla Grodd is awesome. Of course, Iris West works at Jitters, the coffee shop.
Yeah.
That's in the comic book. Big Belly Burger
Yep,
is in the
he's
comic
in
book.
that.
Channel 52, which is the news channel
52.
in the DC universe, and the reporter that's reporting on the particle accelerator accident is actually Linda Park, who we know to be the future wife of the future Flash, Wally West. If that's complex, don't worry
gonna
about
be
it.
very-
Come talk to
yeah.
us. It's just a little tease, right? I'm really looking forward to it. Looking forward to the whole season. I think Arrow is a really cool show, but Arrow has to keep to the street. Arrow has to
Right.
stay realistic. The
Right.
Flash gets to be more sci-fi. The Flash gets to go be more elaborate. Just bigger stories, bigger villains, actual super villains,
Oh yeah.
which is not something Ollie deals with in Arrow. So I think that's really cool. I'm really pumped to see Captain Cold come up. We know we got Captain Cold. We know we got Girder. We know we got Heat Wave. And we know we got Reverse Flash coming up. So overall, you're pumped.
Oh, I'm stoked, man.
We're pumped, and we're going to be here every single week that there's a new episode of The Flash. Check it out on the Valley CW. Come into the Deep Comics and Games. We'll show you some of the books. We'll get you set in the right direction. If you like The Flash, you'll love some of the comics. So I'm Robbie Billups,
I'm Jonathan Strickland.
and we'll flash back next week.
Like the Flash, better yet, I'm Barry Allen. Can't rewind time without messing up the balance. Told my girl I don't think I really got to tell.